Hi, everybody. I am so excited that you're going to be a part of the virtual tutoring program. I think that this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for you. I think it's going to help our local teachers and our community, and I think it's going to be exceptionally helpful for our students. So, if you would go ahead for this training and get a notebook and a pen or have your phone available to take picture of slides, and I will also make sure that this is available to you, but just to keep you from having to skip forward in the video, it would be useful to you to go ahead and take notes or to take pictures of the slides. Okay. So first things first, who I am. I am Morgan Durham. I am the new graduate assistant for Dean Kinney in the College of Education and Human Sciences. I am pursuing a master's degree in education with a concentration in English language arts. So it's also what my undergrad is in. You can contact me at the official program email, that's at virtualtutoring@una.edu, or you can email my student email at mdurham3@una.edu, or you can just call or text me at 256-810-8467. If you can avoid calling me at 3 a.m., that would be preferable. But if you're having some sort of emergency, things happen. Get in touch with me if you need to. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through this training. It's just entry-level stuff. And we're going to talk about what the online etiquette is for virtual tutoring, for online teaching. So we will cover professionalism, how to tread carefully with pop culture, jokes, and sarcasm. We're going to cover grammar, spelling, slang, and aesthetics. We'll talk about citations, preparedness, digital literacy, the types of management, and social media. Okay, so professionalism, first and foremost, you want to be extremely transparent. From the very beginning, your students should know what you expect from them. So what are your expectations? What procedures do you want your student to follow? What rules do you want your student to follow? You want to be very specific and very intentional because they can't read your mind. So you want to be very, very clear up front exactly what you're expecting from them. So if you want them to show up and type in the chat box, hey, I'm ready to learn, when they're ready to start class, then that needs to be made clear to them. If they need to have all their materials ready by the time they log into class, then you need to make sure you make that clear to them. Okay. You also want to be clear in terms of your speaking voice, assignments and due dates, and also with your instruction. So for those who are more soft-spoken or shy, I understand, this is a little difficult. But I will say that you do need to practice. If you want to practice just a Zoom chat with a couple of friends, if you want to practice with a professor, I am happy, more than happy, to get on and practice with you. So when you're speaking, you need to be clear. You need to enunciate your words. You need to try to avoid saying things in convoluted ways. Keep it as simple as possible for your students. Practicing always helps, especially with your instruction, like running through your instruction and exactly what you're going to say is extraordinarily helpful. You want to be punctual. In this circumstance, what I mean by punctual is early and ready. So punctual, if your tutoring session starts at 4, that doesn't mean log in at 4. You need to be logged in a few minutes before 4 and have everything ready to go. Before you log in, you need to be aware of your background. So you need to make sure that nothing's going on behind you that is inappropriate or extremely distracting. You want to take notes, especially when you're first getting to know your student. When they're telling you about themselves, their hobbies, what they struggle with, what their goals are. You want to take down notes so that they know that you're listening. You want to practice your nonverbal listening cues. So as they're talking to you, you want to nod and, do the, I understand. without interrupting them. So you want to do your nonverbal body cues that you're listening to them. And one way you can do that easily over virtual sessions is by taking notes. Making eye contact is more difficult in a virtual setting, obviously. You want to look towards your webcam directly, which is a little hard to do. It's easy to look at yourself or to look at what you're working on, but just occasionally, if you can go ahead and get in the habit of pulling yourself from your instruction material to the webcam, because that does simulate eye contact and will make building the relationship a little bit easier. So you want to utilize your mute button, know when to use it, know when to not. You want to dress the part, and I do want to stay on this for just a minute. I know it's a running joke right now that because of the pandemic and the quarantine and everything, people are only getting dressed up from the waist up. I need you to not do that. I need you to get completely professionally dressed, like all the way down to shoes. The reason for this is because it will put you in the professional mindset, right? And then if something happens and you do have to get up for whatever reason, you don't look extremely silly wearing a blazer and a pair of pajama pants. So make sure you dress the part, dress as if you were going to a job interview. This is especially important for secondary. It's important for everybody. Everybody should do it, but it's even more important for secondary because the age gap between you and your student is not going to be that much. So it's important for you to establish that authoritative professional in the room type of vibe so that there is no confusion as to you being a professional and them being the student. Okay, so you want to, and this should be in all things in life, but especially now, we need to work on being polite, attentive, and helpful in all correspondence with our cooperating teachers, with our students, with our parents, with our guardians, with your professors, with me. It's a weird time right now, and this is a brand new program, and we are building this on the fly because we know it is a need in the community, and so we are jumping in with both feet. And with that comes the fact that there will be kinks to work out. There's going to be bumps in the road, and we're going to have to tackle those when we get to them. So it's very important to not let your frustration show through, especially to your students and especially with the schools that we're working with. So if you do need to vent and just unload or complain, message me and we'll have a venting session. You can use me as a soundboard and get it out of your system. So by the time you get back to, your professional emails and your correspondence, you can be polite and happy and easy to work with. Okay. And this is especially true when you're talking to your students. You have to have a lot of grace for your students right now. Okay. So these are some questions I want you to consider. What are some examples in your wardrobe that you own right now? What are examples of unprofessional clothing? What clothing should you make a point to avoid in your own wardrobe? When you go through your wardrobe, and try to do this before we get started, when you go through your wardrobe, ensure that you are positive about the things that are okay to wear. If you are like split down the middle on something, don't wear it. If you're 50-50 on something, don't wear it. You need to be certain that there's not going to be an issue with it. Okay? Think about how you plan on clearly conveying your expectations. Are you going to do that with visual aids? Are you going to go through a syllabus? Are you going to have some sort of survey? How do you want to convey what you expect out of your student? So what are some ways that you personally can work towards clarity? How can you practice your speaking? How can you make your assignments as clear as possible? Are you good at writing directions? Do you need to practice that? What about instruction? Do you think you're very clear with your instruction? So a big hint here is practice is never, ever, ever going to hurt you. It will only help you. So don't be scared to practice. I know it feels silly sometimes, to go through a lesson plan or instruction materials with yourself or with your family. But I promise you it does pay off because it helps you a lot with your time management, with your speaking, and to catch any issues within your instruction before you're in front of a student. So go ahead and be considering what things you want to make a habit of checking before logging into your virtual session. So are you going to do a once over in the room? Are you going to ensure that you have your notebook and pen? Are you going to ensure your phone is silent or out of the room? Go ahead and make a checklist for yourself and be prepared to go through that checklist every time before you log into your tutoring session. Okay, so some things to be aware of. Strong language. Choose your words carefully. This is a live setting, so you want to be very, very careful about the words you use. If you use all caps in chats or text correspondence or emails, that means that you're screaming at the person that you're talking to. And the same thing goes for exclamation points. You want to avoid using all caps and excessive exclamation points. I know that a lot of people do the excessive exclamation points to seem exert friendliness. And that works sometimes, you know, like one here and there, like good job, exclamation point, that's fine. But using them constantly, overly using them comes off aggressive and kind of unhinged. So you don't want to get in a habit of overly doing the exclamation points. So be very aware of your punctuation and what sort of message that is sending, like the subtext of your text. Okay, so you want to avoid at all costs being the Michael Scott of virtual teaching. You do not want to be the Michael Scott of online learning. You want to tread more carefully than you ever have before with humor and sarcasm. There is no sarcasm font, so your students are likely to not pick up that you're being sarcastic. If you're somebody who has a dry sense of humor, who is sarcastic often, you're going to want to assess if you can pull that off in a virtual setting. It doesn't work quite the same as it does in person. Also, you are likely not going to have access to IEPs and 504 plans. So there are several disorders in which people cannot pick up on the social cues that mark sarcasm. So that could cause a lot of issue with you and your student if your student's one of those people who have one of those disorders. So you just want to be very careful with sarcasm. You want to be as literal as possible. That doesn't mean that you can't make jokes. You can totally make jokes. You just have to be very, very cognizant of your tone and how it may come across. Okay, so professionals, you have to let the aesthetic all lowercase thing go. That's got to go. You have to just turn that off. I understand it. I get why people think it's pretty. I get it. But you're in a professional setting. So you need to get on your phone, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, but you need to get on your phone and your device and make sure that you have all your capitalization turned on, because I know a lot of people have that turned off now because they like the aesthetic of all lowercase. You need to go ahead and undo that on all your devices. Okay, so you want to know your students. You want to pay attention to mannerisms, body language, how they speak. If there is any slight chance that a joke or a phrase or a word or anything else may offend them, don't use it. And if you think you have offended them, go ahead and apologize. Don't be scared to apologize if you think you've spoken out of turn, or correct yourself, say you misspoke. So tread very, very carefully. Okay? Keep in mind that they are the student and you are the teacher. This entire situation is new and difficult and scary, and that is 100 times more true for your student. So ensure that you're being patient, be kind, be forgiving, be compassionate. Give your student some grace. Okay, be patient with your student. Okay, so this is where this is where you can do your capitalization and your spell check on iPhone, and then on Android, it's the same thing. So if you don't already have Grammarly on your phone or on your device, go ahead and do that. Grammarly is an amazing, amazing app. Um, I have the free version and I've been extremely happy with the free version. There is a paid version that's more extensive. Um, I don't think it's quite necessary. Um, but if you want to, you can go ahead and invest in it. I don't think it would hurt anything, but it is pricey. So, but the free version is fantastic. Um, so ask yourself if you have spell checking Grammarly enabled on your phone. Think of some ways that you can get in the habit of checking for correct punctuation and grammar before sending correspondence. Like find some way to get in the habit of stopping and proofreading before you hit the send button. Once the send button's hit, it's gone, and then you'll notice every mistake in the world. So go ahead and get in the habit of stopping and checking, proofreading. And go ahead and make yourself aware of the grammatical errors that you have a habit of making. We all have mechanics that is our weak spot. So, for example, I'm an English major and I throw commas into everything I can. I throw commas around like it's confetti. So I know that about myself. I know that that's an error I make. And so when I type something out, something I scan for when I'm proofreading is overusing commas. So just kind of look over your own writing, get to know your own writing, and be aware of the things that you habitually do grammatically that you need to check for. Okay, so pop quiz, a very easy one. Do you have to cite worksheets, slideshow content, and other information that you're going to use for your tutoring session? What do you think? Yes, absolutely. So anytime you use someone else's ideas or information or whatever, you need to accredit them. Otherwise, it's plagiarism. So there's two different ways you can do the citations in a slideshow or online. The first is that if you're using a slideshow, you can just reference where you got the information at the bottom of the page. I tend to do it like this one here. It's very small. It's like a footer. But you can also do it like this. This, you can see it's not a fancy exact MLA or APA style citation. It is just simply noting where you got the information. That works fine. Again, though, if you use direct quotes, make sure you do put those as quotation marks. It's always better to paraphrase and put things in your own words. Okay, so the second way you can cite is by creating an entire citation slide or a page. So for the slideshows, it's not quite as technical as like a works cited page for a research paper. But you do want to check with your professor and see what they are expecting as far as your citations go, because they may have more strict requirements than what I'm laying out for you here. Okay, so just double check with your professor. They may not have anything in mind, but just to double check and make sure that you're going to make them happy. Okay, so next, you want to be prepared. A big part of EdTPA is anticipating your students' needs. So you want to go ahead and get in the habit of doing this now. Anticipate your students' needs. What are they going, where are they going to get lost? What are they going to have questions about? What are they going to stumble on? What words are they not going to know? When you build your lesson and you're reviewing it, and you should always review it, you need to consider where your students will get stuck. You need to be able to know that ahead of time so that you can already have answers prepared. So you can already have enrichment materials and supplemental materials prepared, examples prepared, analogies prepared. So you want to be able to look over a lesson and know the parts where your student is likely to get stuck. Try your best to make your lessons interactive. Unfortunately, we do not learn by osmosis. We can't just sit and absorb information and know everything. Otherwise, learning would be a lot easier. So you want to make your lessons engaging, because people tend to learn through experience better than they do just passively. So you need to go ahead and have your assessments and evaluations made and loaded. Pull up all your tabs, PDFs, and any of the tech tools you're planning on using during your lesson. Go ahead and have that planned up. That's pulled up. That's one of the things that you need to have already pulled up before your student logs in. So that is part of being prepared. Go ahead and clean up your social media now. No kidding. Clean it up now. Now is the time. Okay, so digital literacy. Here's the thing, is a lot of people think because you're going to be working with digital natives that they know everything. They're super tech savvy. They probably know the tech better than you do, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of studies have shown that students, when it comes to professional type technology, learning technology, professional technology, they tend to not know what they're doing. They need assistance. So students will likely know about what they're interested in regarding technology. They'll know how to use Snapchat. They'll know how to use games. They'll know how to use all kinds of different social media because that's what they're interested in. But as far as ed tech and email and things like that, they may need additional assistance because a lot of people have spent a lot of time assuming this is something they already know because they've grown up with technology, but they actually need a lot more help with it than what you might think. Engagement is absolutely key, and technology really helps us to do that. You want to practice digital literacy, you need to know your stuff. If you have any doubts about your own digital literacy skills, then I suggest call your library. They are a phenomenal resource. Specifically, Derek Malone is a great resource, and he's always happy to help. So if you're interested in getting additional information on digital literacy, let me know, and I can put you in touch with Derek Malone. He is extremely helpful when it comes to this stuff. So this is important. Don't just use ed tech. Use it effectively. Use it efficiently. Use it correctly. A common mistake that is used by new teachers and by teacher candidates is, you're expected to use technology. They ask about it in your lesson plans. They ask about it in EdTPA. I'm positive your admin will ask you about it. How are you using technology? You don't need to just insert tech here or use the same technology over and over and over again because it's the one you know. You need to really consider your students, how they learn, what your content is, and the best way to efficiently use technology. Don't be scared to play with technology. Don't be scared to experiment. You're not going to break Google. You're not going to break Microsoft. I promise. If somebody was going to break it, I would have broke it a long time ago, and I haven't. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I promise you. So if you are worried about ed tech, paranoid about ed tech, I will very happily lead some trainings on specific education technologies if you guys are interested. If you want to do a one-on-one in chat, I'm happy to do that. So any help we can get you more comfortable with ed tech, the better. Okay. Okay, so a couple kinds of management. The first of which I'm sure you've heard of is classroom management. So you can be nice and still be in charge. You can be kind and still be the teacher. You are not the friend. You're the teacher. So there needs to be that divide there. You can be fun teacher and you can be awesome teacher, but still lead the classroom because ultimately you are the leader. You are in charge. Classroom management, a common misconception is that it's discipline, that it's strictly behavior. It's not. It's how you run a classroom, and that includes in a virtual space. So you need to have a plan, a backup plan, and be prepared to adjust on the fly. So you need to have your original lesson plan, a backup lesson plan, and then some activities in your back pocket, some reviews in your back pocket to use if everything else falls apart. You need to always have a backup plan to your backup plan. And I know that seems excessive, but I promise you, the day that you need it, you'll be really, really glad that you were excessive and you had those activities in your back pocket. So one way that you can ensure that your students stay on track is by using classroom resets. A way I did this, now granted this was in person, but a way I did this is after small group activities, if we were going to go back to reading a novel, I would have all the students turn to a particular page and hold up the page so that I could see that they were on the page they were supposed to be on. And, the stragglers in the room would notice everyone physically holding up the book and realize that they were supposed to be on a certain page, and they would catch up really quickly. But it's a great way if you can physically get a cue showing, yes, I'm ready, I'm set, let's go. And sometimes you have to be the one in charge of that. You have to figure out how to reset the room. And you can do that easier with one student one-on-one, like what we're going to be doing with tutoring. But if you need more information on resets, just let me know. You need to have an open and honest conversation with your cooperating teacher about behavioral expectations, but do not, under any circumstances, make negative assumptions about your student. Just because they may have had some behavioral issues in the past does not mean that you have to expect that from them. What ends up happening when we expect things and we apply negative assumptions to our students is that we tend to be defensive and like ready for them to misbehave and overly critical to them. And that's going to result in them not wanting to build a relationship with you, not wanting to try. They're going to disengage. They're going to get defensive. They're going to put a wall up. And so don't do that. Always prepare for the absolute worst that can happen, but expect the absolute best. Because just because they had a behavioral issue with someone else doesn't mean that they're going to have that with you. What they're starting with you is a brand new opportunity. It's a start over. It's a do-over. So make sure that you give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so the other type of management is time management. So one thing that will help you a lot is if you verbalize how long you're giving a student for their activities. No matter how long or short it is, if it's you have 2 minutes to do this, you have 1 minute to do this, you have 6 minutes to do this. You have to be able to organize your time and make sure that your student knows how much time they have. A really easy way to do this is by utilizing a timer. And there's one, obviously you can't click the link, I can send it to you, but I think it's called classroomscreen.com. And it's a classroom timer, and it has a lot of different alarms and different things you can use within the classroom. It's a really excellent way to have something pulled up on the screen that the student can look and check to see how much time they have. Because I'm telling you now, if you just let students take as long as they want, your entire lesson has been eaten up. It's gone. So make sure that you are keeping your classroom and time management running by utilizing that timer. You want to plan your segments by time. So when you're lesson planning in each section, with each new activity, with each new instruction, you need to go ahead and get in the habit of writing or typing how much time you expect that to take. Some of that's going to come with experience, but that's also a benefit of practicing your instruction. Because if every time you practice, it's between 10 and 15 minutes, you can allot that much time during your session. So you do want to prioritize your content when you're going back through your content, when you're reviewing your content before giving your lesson. You want to make sure that you know exactly what you can cut short if you're running low on time. And you also want to know how much extra time you can give students if they need it. If they're struggling with a concept that you didn't necessarily expect them to struggle with, how much extra time can you spend on that before you have to move on? Okay, so these are some things to consider with different types of management. Okay, so imagine your student logs in and is giddy and excited to tell you about their weekend and what happened and OMG, whatever it is. They're so pumped to tell you about this. You can listen to it for so long, but how might you kindly but firmly move on with the lesson? This is a very likely scenario to happen. So you need to go ahead and have it in your head how to approach segueing back into the lesson without hurting your students' feelings. Just go ahead and be thinking about it. Okay, so social media. What are some things that you think should be removed from social media accounts? I know that they're your personal accounts, but teachers' lives are public. So you need to go ahead and clean up the social media now. So consider things that your students will look at, your students' parents will look at, admin will look at. Think about all that and remove anything even halfway questionable off of the social media. Pictures of you in bathing suits, pictures of you partying, anything like that, gotta go. Go ahead and check your privacy settings if you haven't in a while. Go ahead and double check it, even if you checked it last week. Just check it again just to be sure. And here's a good question. Should you accept friend or follow requests from your students? I'm going to answer it for you. Do not do that. Absolutely do not do that. Remember, you're a professional, not a friend. Okay, so even when tutoring is over, do not accept friend requests from them. I have a Facebook page that is it's Mrs. Durham Teaches, and it is only my teacher account. And if my students want to friend me on Facebook or social media, that's the account I give them. I have an account specifically teacher account. So they can follow that account and see my updates. And I'm sure it's excruciatingly boring for them because I post education academic articles, and I'm positive they probably unfollowed it immediately. So that would be the only circumstance in which I think it might be okay. Okay, so during the live version, this is where we would do Q&A. Obviously, we can't do that asynchronous. So I will say, if you have any questions or concerns, then go ahead and email me. If you want to go ahead and schedule a one-on-one conference, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm also going to build you a teacher candidate toolkit. It's going to be a hyperdoc with a lot of resources on it. So talk to your instructor about getting that, or you can email me and I can go ahead and send you the link. It's going to be a live document, meaning that it is constantly being upgraded and updated. So you can go ahead and get the link, but just remember to periodically check it again because things are being added to it all the time. Guys, I want you to be excited for this. I think you're going to do a phenomenal job. I am just absolutely pumped to get started, and I am excited for your students to get to know you and for you to get to know your students. So if you have any problems, guys, don't hesitate in getting in touch with me, okay? All right, bye.